Hello listeners and welcome to this week's recording of Boomerang. Our team this week is made up of Ruth, Sadie, Claire and Rosemary, and welcome to our new technician, Aidan. This week the news is taken with permission from the West Lothian Courier dated the 16th of October 2025. As usual, the news will be broken into parts, and can I remind you, when you've listened to the whole recording, please post your wallet back to us from a post box and not the post office. Now we'll start with part 1, general news. And the first item is the headline item, and it's headed, Council is facing tough decisions ahead of £23 million cut to budgets, and is by Stuart Somerville. West Lothian Council will have to cut £23 million from its budgets over the next 2 years. The cuts may come across board and could touch the lives of almost everyone in services from transport to rubbish collection, parks and recreation and community support projects. Leading services such as advice shops, which have helped thousands, could also face cuts as a non-statutory provision. If the council maintains a no redundancy policy, posts could go unfilled to save money. A 4-week-long public consultation has been launched, and the results will form the basis of proposals taken forward in the new year. The costs of providing statutory services such as elderly care and homeless provision are outstripping the Scottish Government annual award. The bulk of the Council's annual budget, 80%, is ring-fenced to cover Holyrood-ordered spending. Until this year, West Lothian and other local authorities had been hobbled by a decade of council tax freezes. At 8.5%, the local council tax increase agreed in February was higher than some neighbours. South Lanarkshire was 6%, but well below others. Falkirk's was 15%. However, even with a big hike and increased income from council tax, the council is still facing a significant budget funding gap. Council insiders stressed that the proposals are not an agreed list of measures, but are an illustration of action that could be taken. Councillors haven't been involved in developing proposals, but views and comments provided will help shape the final budget proposals to then be presented to councillors in future, and will help them to make the final decision about West Lothian Council's budget in February next year. Chief Executive of West Lothian Council, Graham Hope, said, "We want to work with our community, staff and partners to ensure that the Council becomes more sustainable, addresses the funding challenges and meets the needs of our communities. The Council has a limited number of options in terms of what choices can be made. Legally, the amount a council spends on services must be the same as the funding we receive, that is the statutory requirement, and after years of insufficient levels of funding provided to councils, combined with huge increase in demand for some services, there are no easy choices. It is vital that the local community, our staff and partners have the opportunity to consider the proposals set out by the officers and are provided an opportunity to have their say. I would encourage residents to take the time to consider the information in the consultation and provide feedback. There is a third such public consultation. In papers that went in front of the Council earlier this week, a report states, across 2 phases, 7,605 responses and over 36,000 individual comments were received. The results from both phases were reported to Council Executive and PDSPs during the 2022 and 2023 years. It adds, it should be noted that there remains a high degree of uncertainty regarding the budget gap and the income and expenditure assumptions in the financial model. In particular, the local government finance settlement, which will be likely to be in January 2026.
This article is headed Call to Buy Veterans' Homes is Rejected. A call for West Lothian Council to buy blind veterans' housing at Linburn has been rejected. Blinded service veterans who occupy homes for life were told this summer that the entire Linburn estate was in line to be sold for house building. Residents feared they would be made homeless within a year and have to join West Lothian's 12,000-strong waiting list. The SNP group had also urged the council to work with Site Scotland on development plans for the historic estate at Wilkinson. The ruling minority Labour-led administration argued that to express support for or against the development of the Site Scotland sites would contravene planning laws. Raising her motion at a council of the full council, group leader Janet Campbell urged the council to follow Edinburgh's lead. The City Council bought Ministry of Defence-owned housing, Dreghorn Barracks, in the capital, including homes with sitting tenants. Councillor Campbell said West Lothian Council had no involvement in any decision-making taken by a charitable organisation. However, the Linburn tenants are West Lothian residents who have declared this is where they have put down roots, where their families are and where they want to live. Under the Housing Scotland Act 1987, a person should be treated as homeless even if they have accommodation, if it would not be reasonable for them to continue to stay in it. West Lothian Council, therefore, have a legal duty to help people who are homeless or at risk of becoming homeless. The motion urged the Council to share best practice with the charity in terms of developing plans to rehouse the tenants on the site through a new developer, similar to what happened with homeowners in Deans, South Livingston. It also asked that the Chief Executive be invited to speak to the next meeting of the full Council. Responding to the Labour Group Council leader, Responding to the Labour Group and Council leader, Lawrence Fitzpatrick said, "I think we were all horrified by the news that the tenants had been told in the summer they would be evicted next year." The council leader pointed out that only 13 of the 23 homes are occupied, adding, "It is my own view that we must be very careful here. I take the view that by leaving properties vacant as and when tenants leave, that there is an intention by the owner to develop the site. We are dealing with a charity landlord, a private landlord. We do have duties under the Housing Act, and we recognise that."
This article is by Stuart Somerville and it's titled "No Confidence Vote Dismissed by Councillors." West Lothian's SNP group expressed deep disappointment after their motion of no confidence in the council administration was defeated. It came as no surprise, and the special meeting was dismissed across the chamber, and among councillors, including some SNP members, in Livingston Civic Centre as a waste of time. The West Lothian Council Depute Opposition Group Leader, Councillor Pauline Stafford, came in for direct criticism with claims that the meeting had been set up as a pre-election stunt ahead of next May's Hollywood poll. SNP councillors hit out at what they labelled personal attacks. Group leader Janet Campbell said the meeting had been called because of the level of anger from community centre volunteers who have felt ignored in the process to implement change. Her motion said, "Many of these decisions have been made without allowing adequate scrutiny from all councillors. They have lacked transparency, failed to involve proper consultation, and the party argued that decisions should have been brought before all councillors, not just the Labour-dominated executive." She said that Labour had spurned a post-election offer in 2022 from the SNP to work with them in administration. Political leadership failed when this was rejected out of hand, she added. Councillor Campbell said, "We brought this motion because residents and volunteers have been in tears over the way their community centres have been treated. Unfortunately, the Labour-Tory administration chose to close ranks. By voting down our motion, they have ignored the voices of local people and signalled that they are content to continue making decisions behind closed doors. The meeting of the full council stalled a few times. Provost Cathy Baldoon had to call for quiet across the chamber. Attempts to connect with 4 councillors, 3 SNP and 1 Labour, who were attending remotely to hear their contributions, also led to a brief break. Councillors voted down the motion in favour of a Labour amendment seconded by the Conservative group. The amendment stressed that no community centre would close. Councillor Lawrence Fitzpatrick's amendment branded a recent walkout from a council meeting by the SNP as showboating. It also noted the current system of governance allied to the standing orders was implemented in May 2007 by the SNP when it was in power in West Lothian. It went on to detail on engagement with community centre management committees, including 86 meetings as requested by the community centre management committees, including 9 briefings, as well as workshops and other officer engagement. Seconding the motion, Conservative group leader Damien Timpson told the meeting, "The Councillor Stafford campaign is up and running, and this is what it's all about." Lib Dem's Sally Pattle told the SNP group that she would be abstaining in the vote. We are all very aware that local authorities are facing the biggest challenges in their history. Every elected member in this chamber knows this, just as the communities that we serve are well aware that their lives don't appear to be getting better while we sit in here doing this. That is why, in this special meeting, in my opinion, it is a complete waste of time. Instead of using this time to come up with proactive solutions to find sustainable long-term plans for community centres, we have to listen to grandstanding and navel-gazing on both sides of the chamber to no discernible end. Ms Pattle said that the review could have been handled much better in terms of presentation, but the source of much anxiety among frontline staff and management committees had come from misinformation from the SNP. The SNP hasn't come with any solutions of their own. Today, I am abstaining. I don't see the point in any of us doing this. It won't help anyone. Independent Andrew Maguire said he would have supported the SNP motion if it had been about looking at updating the standing orders, adding that it was a different issue for a different day. He commented, "Even if this motion was supported by every single member in the chamber, not one thing would change about community centres." Mr Maguire described the vote as a confection. After the meeting, Councillor Stafford told the local Democracy Reporting Service, "The vote will be a bitter blow for the volunteers who have been pleading for openness and fairness."
This next item is headed over £500,000 given to install charging points. West Lothian has received more than £500,000 from a national fund to install car charging points. The scheme will help develop a network of electric vehicle, EV, charging stations across the county in southern Scotland. Transport Scotland has given £6 million to a group of local authorities to develop EV infrastructure. The goal is that charging points should be no more than half a mile from most homes. Peter Rogers, the Council's Energy and Climate Change Manager, explained that West Lothian's share of the fund would be £520,000. At this month's meeting of the Environment and Sustainability Policy Development Scrutiny Panel, known as PDSP, Conservative Alison Adamson asked what provision there could be to help households with no off-street parking. She asked the meeting, what considerations have been made for people who wish to begin using electric vehicles, but because of planning or health or safety regulations, they cannot take a cable from their house to their street parking area? Mr Rogers said that the senior transport managers were working on guidance on this and added, there's also a pilot project that's been set up by the Scottish Government looking at pavement gullies in particular. There's obviously a degree of concern about a number of issues like long-term maintenance of cables and trip or fall hazards of additional street furniture and around mobility. The £6 million investment announced by Transport Scotland will lead to a significant increase in the charging network within close proximity, in particular to areas that don't have significant access to off-street parking. So there's a lot of work going on to support it. Some of this won't come to fruition immediately, but certainly in the medium term. The Local Democracy Reporting Service highlighted earlier this year that Edinburgh Council is the lead local authority in a group which includes immediate neighbours in Falkirk, Mid and East Lothian, as well as the Scottish borders.
This article by Ruth Souter is headed "Inquiry Will Probe Dad's Death in Cell at Addiewell Prison." The death of a prisoner who died after developing a stomach ulcer behind bars is to be probed by a sheriff. Stuart Glancy, 38, was found dead in his cell at HMP Addiewell in West Lothian in June 2020. Relatives say he had begged to see a doctor in the days before his death. Fellow inmates also claimed he was in pain for days, but his pleas to be taken to hospital were refused. He was nearing the end of a sentence for attempted housebreaking. A fatal accident inquiry, FAI, into the circumstances surrounding Stuart's death is now set to be carried out. A preliminary hearing will take place at Edinburgh Sheriff Court on February the 2nd next year. The father of three's cause of death was bleeding from a gastric ulcer. In August 2023, a review by NHS Lothian found that health staff failed to act on concerns raised by Stuart when he was examined 18 days before his death. The significant adverse event report found he should have been put under closer observation after a nurse saw him on the day he died. Stuart complained of back pain shortly after his arrival at Addiewell, where he was serving a sentence for attempted housebreaking. A nurse decided this was a muscular problem and prescribed painkillers. He was also told to improve his posture. Weeks later, Stuart was told he had tested positive for hepatitis C. A nurse then found he had significant anemia, suggesting chronic blood loss, but this information wasn't fed into the prison's healthcare system. Days before he died, Stuart fainted. Tests were carried out, but his blood pressure was not recorded as the machine was not working. It was, however, known that he had an increased heart rate and would have raised his national early warning score. On the day of his death, the dad complained again of having sore back and feeling faint. At this point he was pale and struggling for breath. Nurses arranged a GP appointment for the following Monday, and he was checked in his cell by guards every 30 minutes. He was found dead in his cell that evening. Stuart's devastated sister said, "It's heartbreaking to be told what he was going through. Why did he not get to see a doctor when he was in so much pain for so long? Stomach ulcers can be treated with medication. If it had been diagnosed, chances are he would have survived." Fellow prisoner James Vance said he spoke to Stuart days before he died. He added, "You can tell he was in pain. He said it felt like someone was trying to pull his insides out." Staffs have a duty of care. If he'd been taken to hospital, maybe his life would have been saved. But Stuart said staff thought he was making it up so he could get high on medication. Another inmate claimed the dad could barely stand up hours before his death. Kenny McMahon said Stuart was sitting in the dining area. He said he couldn't move and had his hand over his kidneys. "I could see he was in severe pain." He said he complained for a week and wanted to see a doctor, but all he got was paracetamol. Scottish MSP for Central Scotland Monica Lennon said, "The death raises many questions. She added, Stuart Glanth's unexpected death raises many questions. His family deserves answers. It is important to establish the facts, including whether he received prompt and appropriate medical attention. Families shouldn't have to wait years for the outcome of a fatal accident inquiry.
This article is headed, Hotel Plan for Empty Shop Goes to Appeal. Plans to turn a former frozen food store in Bathgate's town centre into a short-term let hotel, which was rejected by councillors, has gone to appeal. Mumtaz Hussain saw his proposals to turn the old farm food store on South Bridge Street into a 39-bed accommodation thrown out. Councillor Pauline Stafford slated the rooms, stating they were so small there was no space for a chair. Councillors on the Development Management Committee heard Bathgate now has more than 300 short-term let beds available. In an appeal lodged by Mr Hussain's Muir Developments firm, planning consultant Derek Scott doubled down on the assertion that the short-term let rooms would be aimed at contractors and tourists. In papers filed with the Scottish Government's Division of Planning and Environmental Appeals, the agent said that the application for a change of use from retail to a hotel addresses growing demand for flexible short-term accommodation from business travellers, contractors and tourists, particularly in the context of the under-provision of such facilities in Edinburgh, to which Bathgate is easily accessible via bus and rail-based public transport facilities. The agent added that the new development would bring benefits to the surrounding town centre, saying, the short-term letting accommodation proposed will bring a prominent former retail unit, closed since 2021, back into productive use, reducing a vacancy in the town centre. The next article is by Ross Thompson. School Bank Changes Lives. Livingston MP Gregor Poynton has praised the outstanding work of the West Lothian School Bank following a visit to their headquarters, where he met project manager Colette Moran and her dedicated team. The visit gave Mr Poynton the chance to hear more about the charity's vital work supporting families and young people across West Lothian. The school bank collects and redistributes pre-loved and new school clothing, footwear, football boots, sports kits and essential equipment, making sure no child misses out on education, sport or community life because of financial hardship. During his visit, Mr Poynton heard about the increasing demand for support and met some of the volunteers who make it possible for the school bank to reach communities right across West Lothian. He said, "It was fantastic to meet Colette and the team and to see firsthand the difference the West Lothian School Bank is making. Every young person deserves the chance to take part in clubs and activities and arrive at school with the right equipment and ready to learn, no matter what's in their parents' wallets. Thanks to Colette and her volunteers, hundreds of children are getting that opportunity through their schools, local clubs and community partners. Their work is a powerful example of local compassion, community spirit and teamwork. I'm proud to support them and help spread the word about what they do."
Welcome back to part 2, and we'll start with the family announcements.
Maguire Margaret passed away at home on Tuesday the 30th of September 2025, aged 89. Margaret, beloved wife of the late Jack, much loved mum to Alison, Elaine, Marion and Margaret, adored mother-in-law, granny, great-granny, auntie and a friend to many. A funeral service will be held on Wednesday the 22nd of October 2025 at 11 a.m. at West Lothian Crematorium, and all are welcome to attend.
Oxley Sheila, Livingston Village. Passed peacefully at Kirk Lane Nursing Home on Friday, October the 3rd, 2025, aged 84 years. Sheila, a beloved wife to the late Edward, devoted mum to Sharon and Wayne, much-loved mother-in-law to Alison and David, doting gran to Connor, Casey, Jamie, Sophie and Dominic, and a great-gran to Carter and Ruby Rose. A celebration of Sheila's life will be held at Livingston Old Parish Church on Friday, October the 31st at 12:45. This will be followed by a short service at Livingston Crematorium at 2 p.m, to which all are welcome. Family flowers only. Please feel free to wear a touch of colour, which we know Sheila favoured.
This next item is headed Spooky Fun, Keeping the Memory of Keris Alive, and is by Lee Dalgetty. A Bathgate family are keeping their daughter's spirit alive with a unique tribute after she tragically passed away in her sleep. Steph and Donnie Mitchell lost little Keris when she was just 2 years old. The tot went to bed her cheeky, giggly self on January the 4th last year, before her parents went in to check on her and realised she wasn't breathing. Mercy crews raced to her Bathgate home. However, Keris had already gone. Now, almost 2 years later, the Mitchell family are not only doing all they can to keep Keris's memory alive, but also looking to give a helping hand to others who have lost a loved one. Along with their 4 children, Zara, Donnie Jr., Alex and Jason, the couple have adorned Keris's grave with some spooky decor in her honour. They've also left out some sweets for passers-by in hopes of carrying on her legacy after the selfless toddler became known for handing out all her sweet treats on Halloween. After Keris's passing, her family were left with questions when pathologists told them she'd died from sudden, unexplained death in childhood following an inconclusive post-mortem. However, after meeting with genetic doctors, Steph and Donnie were told there was a very strong chance that she had suffered a seizure. Keris was born with an extra chromosome, as were 2 of her brothers, and while her parents thought she would grow to be happy and healthy like the others, it's thought her tiny body was unable to recover from the seizure, which is believed to be connected to her extra chromosome. Mum Steph said, "Our last Halloween, she was just kind of starting to get used to what Halloween was and absolutely loved dressing up and scaring her brothers. We used to go with her to buy decorations. She loved putting on masks and jumping out to frighten her brothers and sisters. We wanted to keep her spirit going. It's not going to bring her back, and it doesn't make us feel like she's alive or anything, but it's a case of keeping her memory alive. She had a whole life ahead of her, and I just hate the thought of people forgetting about her. She was just getting into trick-or-treating, and she'd go to one door to another and take some sweets, and then go to the next door, and she'd hand all her sweets over. She didn't quite understand what the point of taking sweets was. Whenever she came home, she would get out her sweets from the tub and give everybody in the house one. She'd give some of her toys and everything. What we've done is all about giving to others. That's what she loved doing."
The Mitchells have all struggled since Keris passed away, especially before getting some answers as to how she died. While doctors were unable to 100% confirm, they were able to give the family some closure. Mum Steph told us we did get answers eventually. They're not solid answers and we can't tell us 100%. They're pretty sure Keris had an extra chromosome and 2 of her brothers have got the same extra chromosome. So we thought she was going to kind of grow up to be happy and healthy like they are. One of our sons suffers from seizures like epilepsy due to the chromosomes. The night that Keris went to sleep, they thought she had a seizure and that she just couldn't bring herself out of it. It was just due to the extra chromosome and that she could have grown up to experience epilepsy and that it was just an unfortunate event that happened during the night. We sat down with genetic doctors and went through an exome analysis which goes through all of our genetics. It was really good to have that opportunity to be able to try and get answers, and it brought us a bit closer to closure. The NHS tried so hard to get us some answer because it was haunting us. As for the future, Steph is certain that the whole family will continue to keep Keris's memory alive in any way they can. Now that the children are getting older, they are starting to come up with their own ideas of how to pay tribute to their sister. She told us my older two now get involved and want to start taking over. My oldest is only 13, but she's also got wee ideas. I don't think we'll ever stop doing things to keep her memory alive. It was my kids' idea to put sweeties down for everyone because Keris loved to share hers. So yeah, I think it'll always continue. We also want to show people who are grieving that they're not alone. Grief is such a hard journey, and usually after the funeral, everybody disappears and you never hear from anybody ever again. It's the hardest part. And sometimes it's just nice knowing that people are there and going through the same thing. And people are spreading love and kindness, and we get to spread Keris's name.
Demand for an update on scrapping of bin fee. West Lothian councillors have called for more clarity on when brown bin charges could be scrapped for residents. When West Lothian first introduced a £50 a year charge to uplift garden waste last summer, householders were told that Holyrood would eventually pick up the costs through increased grant aid to councils. More than a year later, council waste managers told Conservative councillor Alison Adamson they have heard nothing about plans to make garden rubbish uplift a statutory service and potentially free to households. And the Local Democracy Reporting Service can reveal it will be at least another year before a change is even considered by the Scottish Government. A report on the year's performance of Waste Management Service went before the Environment and Sustainability PDSP, which revealed a 4% increase in garden waste collected at the curbside in 2024. Councillor Adamson said, "I'm delighted to see that there has been a 4.1% increase in the commingled food and garden waste collection. But my question is, are we any further forward in having funding given by the Scottish Government to help reduce the need for having to pay for permits for brown bins?" David Moll, Head of Operational Services, told the meeting, "I can confirm there has been no confirmation from the Scottish Government." West Lothian's annual garden waste uplift permits now cost £52.75 per household. This covers 2 brown bins. When the permits were first proposed in February 2024, they caused uproar. Petitions against the charge were started when it was revealed that the charges could raise more than £1 million a year. However, unions representing waste operations staff welcomed the charge as the first 2 significant investments in almost 2 decades of cutbacks. At the moment, there is no requirement to provide the garden waste uplift, so councils receive no financial help to do so, and the charges have been introduced to cover the costs. Damien Doran-Timpson, the Conservative group leader on the council, told the Local Democracy Reporting Service, "We only agreed to this fee on the understanding that it would become mandatory from the Scottish Government, and therefore the charge for the brown bin uplift would have been removed. We expected this to have happened by now, but the residents of West Lothian are yet again being negatively impacted by the incompetence of the Scottish Government. I believe an incoming government should make garden waste collection statutory and therefore not chargeable." A spokesman for the Scottish Government told the LDRS, "We are reviewing local authority charges for waste collection services as part of the co-design of the new statutory household recycling code of practice, though no decisions on changes to duties relating to garden waste collection have been reached. The co-design will be completed by the end of 2026, after which the Code of Practice will be consulted on." The next article is titled, Pop-up puzzles. Livingston Designer Outlet has announced the arrival of a 3-month pop-up shop from the world-renowned games brand Ravensburger. Arriving just in time for Christmas, shoppers can visit the Ravensburger shop to discover the most amazing presents for their loved ones. From magical puzzles to exciting games and toys featuring beloved characters from franchises such as Disney, Marvel, and Star Wars, there is something to delight every child on Christmas morning. It's not just for children, though, as Ravensburger offers puzzles and board games for adults as well. Whether an expert player of games such as Dungeons and Dragons or a complete novice, Ravensburger games are for everyone to enjoy. Michelle Whitelaw, the Centre Director at Livingston Designer Outlet, said, "We are delighted to announce the opening of the Ravensburger 3-month pop-up shop. The new store is packed with an incredible selection of puzzles, board games, books and toys, which we know our shoppers will absolutely love."
This next item is headed Charities Dementia Walk Plea. People across West Lothian are being encouraged to sign up for a fundraising walk that pays tribute to people with dementia. Alzheimer's Scotland Memory Walk 2025 takes place on Sunday, October the 26th, and will raise vital funds to support dementia care, research and developments, and improvements in brain health. Communities across the area are being invited to join the event in Lorison Castle Gardens in Edinburgh, where they can walk in memory of loved ones affected by the illness. The Edinburgh event is the last of 4 memory walks taking place across Scotland throughout 2025. Those looking to take part can sign up at memorywalk.altscotland.org. Events have also taken place in Dundee, Aberdeen and Glasgow. Tickets cost just £10 for adults and children can be registered for free. It's quick and easy to set up a sponsorship page which can be shared with family, friends and colleagues. Every penny raised will help people with dementia and their carers, as well as supporting better brain health for everyone in Scotland. Scotland's Memory Walk is also about celebrating the lives of people with dementia and walking to remember them. Lauren Heap, Centre Manager for Alzheimer's Scotland, Edinburgh and West Lothian Brain Health and Dementia Resource Centre, said, "Alzheimer's Scotland is proud to support people living with dementia and their families and carers from our centres in Edinburgh. We are delighted to host this memory walk in Edinburgh. It is such a special event and it will be wonderful to walk alongside our supporters again in the local community. Every pound raised helps Alzheimer's Scotland continue to develop vital dementia support. We can't wait to see Lorison Castle Gardens filled with a sea of purple T-shirts. To find out more, visit memorywalk.altscotland.org.
Nature photo competition launched. David Wilson Holmes is marking the change in season with a search across West Lothian for vibrant wildlife and landscape photography that celebrates the beauty of autumn. The premium house builder, which has developments at Bangor Village in Livingston, Marina Way in Winchborough and Valley Park in East Calder, is inviting both seasoned and budding photographers to capture new imagery of the area's local wildlife and natural surroundings. From bundles of amber leaves draped across woodland paths to the golden light filtering through the branches and wildlife preparing for winter, autumn in Scotland is one of the most beautiful times of the year. The new David Wilson Holmes photography initiative is designed to inspire local residents to pause and appreciate the natural beauty around them while celebrating the diverse wildlife that shares their community. 2 runners-up and 1 overall winner will be selected from 3 areas across Scotland where David Wilson Holmes builds communities. Andrew Morrison, Managing Director at Barrett Homes, and David Wilson Holmes East Scotland said, "Scotland is one of the most scenic places in the world and home to an incredible variety of wildlife. We share our communities with hundreds of species, from birds and insects to mammals, and just like David Wilson homeowners, this wildlife calls West Lothian homes too. This campaign is about celebrating the wildlife that lives alongside us and capturing those special moments when we connect with nature. Whether you have a keen eye or simply a passion for nature, we're inviting everyone to get involved. To enter, share your submissions by email barrettredrow@bigpartnership.co.uk, along with the location where the image was captured, by November the 19th. For more details, visit www.wdh.co.uk advice-and-inspiration/Scottish-wildlife-photography-competition/
It's a diamond delight for the happy couple. A West Lothian couple who met in their 20s at the dancing have celebrated their diamond anniversary after 60 years together. Congratulations to Thomas and Doria Weir, née Mori, who recently marked their magical milestone. Doria came to Scotland from Barga in Tuscany, Italy in 1956 at the age of 20 to work in Serafini's Cafe Chip Shop in George Street. Thomas worked in British Leyland when they met at the Pally in Bathgate, and they have been together ever since. Thomas moved from Falthouse to Bathgate, where they lived in Academy Street after they married. They were married in St Mary's Church in Bathgate and still stay in the town. Thomas was a long-standing member of the West Calder Brass Band. They have 3 children, Nadia, Brenda and Mark, and 3 grandchildren, Alyssa, Danielle and Bella. Lord Lieutenant of West Lothian, Moira Niven, said, "It was a pleasure to meet Thomas and Doria and to congratulate them on such a marvellous milestone." Depute Provost Peter Heggie added, 60 years of marriage is such a lovely milestone to reach, and it was fantastic to meet Thomas and Doria. They are lovely people and well known in Bathgate. I'm sure everyone would like to pass on their well wishes. And there's a really nice photograph of the happy couple with a beautiful bouquet of flowers and a greetings card from the King and the Queen. This article is by Ross Thompson. Sullivan speaks up on mental health dangers. Kirstine Sullivan MP has reaffirmed her strong commitment to improving mental health support across her Bathgate and Linlithgow constituency. Ms Sullivan has been actively engaging with a wide variety of local organisations dedicated to supporting individuals with mental health challenges. She has continually raised the lack of timely and critical support for children and young people with mental and neurodevelopmental conditions. In particular, she has taken decisive action by raising concerns about lengthy waiting times directly with Neil Gray, MSP, Cabinet Secretary for Health, as well as with NHS Lothian, and an issue with the Scottish Government has failed to prioritise for the past 18 years. Ms Sullivan met with Andy's Man Club this last week. The group meets every Monday at 7 p.m, an unwavering schedule shared by all 300 clubs across the United Kingdom. On the most recent Monday, over 6,288 men walked through the doors of Andy's Man Club nationwide. With 4,900 men losing their lives to suicide each year, and suicide being the leading cause of death for men under 50, this weekly turnout powerfully underscores the life-changing impact the club can have. As Andy's Man Club area lead Sandy Main put it, "Every man who walks through the door not knowing what to expect will join a brotherhood and a network of support that goes far beyond the weekly club meeting." Ms Sullivan also met with Alan Young and Doug McAdam from the Bathgate Men's Shed. The Bathgate Shed recently held its inaugural event, with over 20 members so far, and this number is set to grow. This, and the broader Shed movement, is a powerful testament to how a community-based group can foster connection, purpose and emotional support. As Bathgate Men's Shed Alan Young said, many men face the challenge of feeling disconnected. The Men's Shed wants to re-establish that connection and spark conversation and creativity through projects that give a shared purpose. Ms. Sullivan added, official data has estimated the rate of death by suicide in men to be more than 3 times the female rate. Mental health is just as important as physical health, and no one should feel they have to struggle alone. I fully support the incredible work being done by organisations such as Andy's Man Shed and the Bathgate Shed, who provide safe, welcoming spaces for men to talk, connect and find support. I will continue to champion increased support services, ensuring that everyone in the area has access to the help they need when they need it.
This next item is headed Worry Over Kid Poverty Challenges and is by Stuart Somerville. West Lothian is in the top 10 of council areas with the highest levels of child poverty in the country. In a list of shame, the country's figure of 24.1% outstrips Edinburgh and its neighbour South Lanarkshire. And the number of people classed as in work but in poverty has more than doubled in the last 5 years. Despite the shocking statistics laid before the Council's Corporate Policy and Resources PDSP, the baseline level of child poverty has marginally improved since the last years of the pandemic. In a report to the committee, Anti-Poverty Manager Nahid Hanif said, the latest child poverty estimates from the End Child Poverty Coalition and Loughborough University indicate that in 2023-24, 24.1% of children living in West Lothian were living in relative poverty, representing a reduction of 0.5% from the 2022-23. West Lothian remains above the Scottish average of 22%. Councillor Pauline Stafford, the Deputy NSP Opposition Group Leader, called the figures a mark of shame. The Bleak Report, the Local Child Poverty Action Report, detailed, when comparing rates across 32 local authorities in Scotland, West Lothian features in the top 10 areas with the highest levels of child poverty, ranking ahead of its neighbouring local authorities, City of Edinburgh, 22.8%, and South Lanarkshire, 19.5%, and the Scottish Borders, 21.5%. It adds, Glasgow sits at the top of the rankings with a child poverty rate of 36%. However, West Lothian does not feature in the top 10 Scottish parliamentary constituencies with the highest child poverty rates by county or region in the UK. Councillor Stafford called poverty a political choice. Speaking at the close of the meeting, she told the Local Democracy Reporting Service, these figures are extremely stark. It is a mark of shame that so many children in West Lothian are growing up in poverty with all of the damaging long-term consequences that brings for our communities and our economy. However, poverty is a political choice, and I would like to commend the Scottish Government for its leadership and decisive action on fighting child poverty.
In her report, Ms. Hanif suggested 3 possible contributory factors that have led to sustained levels of child poverty. They include the UK government policy on child-related benefits, such as the continued 2-child benefit limit, which has been in effect since April 2017. The percentage of universal credit claimants who are in work increased by 161% between January 2020 and February 2025. In February this year, in-work claimants made up 6% of the West Lothian working age population. Finally, children in lone parent families are particularly vulnerable to the impact of the two-child benefit limit. In such households, more than half of children are estimated to be in poverty. The Scottish Child Payment was introduced in 2021 for children under 6 in households receiving qualifying benefits. The introduction of the Scottish Child Payment aimed to significantly reduce child poverty and support Scotland in achieving its 2030 target of reducing the proportion of children living in relative poverty to below 10%. The weekly payment initially increased from £10 to £20 and then to £25, with a further increase to £27.15 in April 2025, in line with inflation. In November 2022, the eligible range was also extended to include all children under 16. According to the Poverty Alliance, the SCP would need to increase to £40 per week in order to sustain long-term impact. However, a report by the Fraser of Allender Institute highlights that significant reductions in child poverty rates have not been realised. In fact, relative child poverty measured after housing costs increased from 23% in 2021-22 to 26% in 22-23, despite the significant expansion in SCP eligibility. Councillor Stafford claimed that child poverty figures would be much worse if the Scottish Child Payments had not been introduced, telling the LDRS, the introduction of the Scottish Child Payment and the Scottish Government's commitment to scrapping the two-child cap from 2026 means that by 2029, Scotland will be the only country in the UK where child poverty rates are falling.
And that brings us to the end of part 2. Welcome back to part 3, which begins with a quiz. Remember to listen in at the start of part 4 for the answers to the quiz. And here we go. Engage your brain and caw canny. There are some very tricky ones in here today. Number 1. In which decade was the Thames Barrier officially opened by the Queen? A. The 1970s, B. The 1990s, C. The 1980s. Number 2. In 1996, which jockey won all 7 races on a card at Ascot? A. Johnny Murtagh, B. Frankie Dettori, C. Michael Hills. Number 3. Which US author wrote The Sun Also Rises? A. F. Scott Fitzgerald, B. Ernest Hemingway, C. John Dos Passos. Number 4. In which state is Camp David, the country retreat of the US President? A. South Carolina, B. Ohio, C. Maryland. Number 5. What does the word nefarious mean? A. Evil, B. Happy, C. Plentiful. Number 6. In ornithology, what is dunnock another name for? A. Robin, B. Kookaburra, C. Hedge sparrow. Number 7. Claude Puel, Puel, managed which English football club between 2016 and 2017? A. Watford, B. West Brom, C. Southampton. Number 8. In astronomy, how many stars make up the plough? A. 9, B. 7, C. 8. Number 9. In Ireland, what is a shillelagh? A. Harp, B. Heavy club, C. A mischievous elf. And finally, number 10. In which decade was environmental pressure group Greenpeace formed? A. 1980s, B. 1960s, or C. the 1970s? And for a wee extra challenge, here are two words which you may have heard, but do you know what they mean? The first word is antipathy, A-N-T-I-P-A-T-H-Y. Does it mean A, a sixth sense, B, spiritual experience, or C, aversion? And the second word is capriform, C-A-P-R-I-F-O-R-M. Does it mean A, a honeysuckle plant, B, a plant that yields cayenne pepper, or C, goat-like? Good luck, everyone.
Now, you want to win a £25 gift card to spend at the centre. This is by the staff reporter. The Livingston Centre, which has a fantastic mix of over 150 stores and restaurants to choose from, including Flannels, Pandora, Watterson's, Lush, Build-A-Bear, Starbucks and Nando's, is the perfect place to shop, eat and play during the October holidays. If new winter footwear is on your shopping list, check out the stylish range of boots. From slouchy and knee-high to buckled and snakeskin, we've got you covered in so many stores such as River Island, H&M, New Look, Primark and M&S, which is located next to Superdry. When it comes to eating out, there's something for everybody, including tasty burgers and a great selection of toppings at Five Guys, and a delicious katsu curry at Wagamama, and there's chopsticks too for noodle fans. From October 18th to 27th, there's also some free family fun activities at our first ever Space Dome event next to Watterson's, featuring a 360 degrees planetarium film experience where you can explore natural astronomical objects, including stars, planets, the moon, asteroids, comets and galaxies. There is also the choice to touch real Campo del Cielo meteorites from Argentina that are 4.6 billion years old. To be in with a chance of winning a £25 gift card to spend when you visit the Centre Livingston, send your answer to the competition question below to ross.thompson@reachplc.com by Monday, October the 20th. Here is the question. Where is M&S located at the Centre Livingston? A, next to Superdry, B, beside Costa, C, across from Lovisa. For full details of all the activities and events within the centre, check out the website and visit www.thecentrelivingston.com.
This article is by Ross Thompson and it's titled Jem Gives Her View at Parliament. A young woman from West Lothian is among young people helping to shape improvements to the children's hearing system who have visited the Scottish Parliament to share their insights with the Scottish Government. It was the first meeting with a Scottish Government minister for the newly established Experts by Experience group from Children's Hearing Scotland, CHS. This is the public body that recruits, trains and supports the volunteer panel members who make decisions at hearings. 4 CHS Experts by Experience visited the Parliament for the day, alongside members of Our Hearings, Our Voice, an independent board of young people who have been influencing positive change in the hearing system since 2017. The 7 young people, who all have lived experience of children's hearings, met with Natalie Dawn Innes MSP, Minister for Young People and The Promise. They were given a tour of the Parliament by staff of the office of Angus Robertson MSP, Cabinet Secretary for the Constitution, External Affairs and Culture, and they watched First Minister's questions. The team shared a game of Questions Jenga with Ms Dawn Innes, where each wooden block removed from the tower had a talking point to spark discussion. These ranged from light-hearted icebreakers to important issues about improving the hearing system. Gemma Ferry, aged 25, from Linlithgow, said, "We gave the Minister some quite hard questions, including, in a year's time, what do you see the children's panel being like and what needs to change? They also discussed what better supports need to be in place for people leaving care and the hearing system. In 2020, following the Independent Care Review, the Scottish Government and all public bodies made the promise that every child and young person in Scotland should grow up safe, loved and respected. Ms. Dawn Innes said, "I was grateful for the chance to meet with the Experts by Experience group and the Our Hearings, Our Voice group. We enjoyed the chance to play questions Jenga with them, although some questions were easier to answer than others. It proved a valuable opportunity to listen to their views and reflect on what makes a good hearing. The young people also reiterated to me that it's important that any changes we make to the hearing system are guided by the voices and expertise of those who have lived experience of the system. The promise is all about ensuring improvements are felt day to day in the lives of the children and families who have experienced and are experiencing care, and keeping the promise fits firmly within our ambition for Scotland to be the best place to grow up, where children are loved, safe and respected so they can reach their full potential. The Experts by Experience group was established in March to help drive forward improvements in practices and standards at CHS. The Experts by Experience group have already been involved in recruiting CHS board members, staff members and panel members, and are influencing the CHS's policy and strategic priorities. The group consists of 9 members aged 14 to 25 with lived experience of hearings. Members are based all over Scotland, but regularly come together to drive forward improvements. Alice Wadkin, lived experience advisor at CHS, added, "These young people really are the experts when it comes to children's hearings, and it's important that those working to improve the system, from our own organisation to elected representatives, hear from those who have been through it. It was brilliant to hear the conversations today and for these young people to build relationships with senior leaders."
The next 2 items come from Scottish police reports, and the first one is headed "Camper Dumped and Set on Fire." West Lothian locals were baffled when what appeared to be a demountable camper was abandoned on the side of the road and set on fire. The massive object was pictured on the side of the road on Drumshoreland Road near Livingston after it was dumped. An image seems to show it occupying nearly an entire lane. It seems that caution tape and traffic cones were placed around the detritus to alert motorists. The Scottish Fire and Rescue Service were called to the scene when the caravan part was set on fire on Monday, September the 29th. They received a call around 10:30 p.m. and rushed to the scene, where they extinguished the blaze and departed at 11:20. No casualties were reported. A local told Edinburgh Live, "It's the top half of the caravan and it's been burnt out now. It slowed travel down for quite a bit." A spokesman for the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service said, "We received a call on Monday, September the 29th at 10:35 for a caravan on fire on Drumshoreland Road near Livingston. We dispatched 2 appliances. Our crews extinguished the fire and left the scene at 11:19. There were no casualties." And the second item is headed "Armed Man on Doorbell Footage." Bathgate residents were left terrified after a man with a weapon was captured on doorbell footage. The incident happened around 3:30 on Sunday, October the 12th. A resident in Weaver Place in Bathgate showed a hooded thug in a puffer jacket and jeans holding what appears to be a pipe or baseball bat as he sticks up the middle finger to the front door, reports our sister title, Edinburgh Live. The owners of the property said they haven't done anything to anyone and feel the person had the intention of robbing them. They added, "We've not done anything to anyone and only been in this area for a year. I think he was going to rob us. Very traumatic experience for us.
Auntie Kath scoops well-earned honour. A volunteer at a children's respite centre in West Lothian has been honoured at a prestigious awards ceremony. Kath Chalmers won NHS Lothian's Volunteer Award at the board's annual Celebrating Success ceremony for her incredible dedication and impact at Sundach in West Lothian. For the past 10 years, Kath has generously dedicated her Saturday afternoons to volunteer at the Residential Centre for Children and Young People with Complex Medical Needs or Disabilities. Affectionately known as Auntie Kath, she was recognised by fellow colleagues for her warmth, dedication and amazing bonds she's built with children, families and staff. Supported by a 24-hour team of specialist nurses and healthcare professionals, Sundach offers families a much-needed break while ensuring kids are cared for. Alex Hall, Deputy Charge Nurse, Sundach NHS Lothian, said, "The joy on our children's faces when Auntie Kath comes to visit can only be described as spectacular. Whatever the children need, Kath provides, whether it's a hand massage, helping with arts and craft, reading a story, or just simply a cuddle. Nothing is too much for Kath, and it's always done with love and compassion." Everyone at Sundach is so grateful for Auntie Kath for the little things, the big things, and everything in between. Winner Kath said, "Every day and every second I spend at Sundach is a good one. I find it quite humbling to have even been nominated in the first place. I can't thank everybody enough for nominating me for it. I'd like to think this award reflects the love, care and cuddles." Professor John Connaughton, CBE, Chair of NHS Lothian Board, added, "It's always inspiring to hear the incredible stories of care happening every day across Lothian. These awards give us such a chance to pause and celebrate the amazing works being done, and it was fantastic to do that in person again this year. Our finalists were nominated by colleagues and members of the public for the vital roles they play. They should feel incredibly proud of their achievements."
This next article is very seasonal. Barking up the right tree with festive joy. Dobby's Garden Centre is lifting community spirits this season with a Christmas tree donation at its Livingston store in partnership with Needlefresh. The Dobby's Community Christmas Tree campaign will see stores right across the United Kingdom giving away more than 220 Christmas trees to local schools and nurseries to help spread joy during the festivities. The Garden Centre is encouraging local schools or nurseries in Livingston to get in touch to be in with a chance of receiving a free Christmas tree. Participants will need to fill out a short application form which the Dobby's team will then review to help them select successful recipients. Local schools and nurseries within a 20-mile radius of the Livingston store can apply for a free Christmas tree, and entries close on Thursday, November the 6th at 5 p.m. The Dobby's plant buyer, Nigel Lawton, said, "Our Dobby's Community Christmas Tree campaign is a great opportunity to spread festive joy with local schools and nurseries near our Livingston store, showing children the magic a real Christmas tree can bring. We can't wait to see what the successful applicants will do with their trees." Our Nordman fir Christmas trees have soft, dark green needles, which make them easy to handle and ideal for children to decorate. They are known to hold their needles, so their tree will stay green and fresh, given the right care. Once you have collected your cut tree from Dobby's, we recommend keeping it outside in a sheltered area. Cut 1 inch off the base of the trunk and stand the tree in a bucket of water until you are ready to bring it indoors. This will help to reduce the needle drop caused by dehydration. Kenneth Mitchell from Needlefresh added, We are proud to once again support Dobbies with their Community Christmas Tree initiative that allows schools and nurseries near its Livingston store the opportunity to enjoy a real Christmas tree as part of their festive celebrations. Dobbies Community Christmas Tree winners will be informed by mid-November and can collect their Christmas tree on Thursday, November the 27th at the Christmas shopping night or at another arranged date from the Livingston store. For more information and to find out how to get involved, you can visit www.dobbies.com/community-Christmas-trees. And there's a lovely photograph with a range of Santa Clauses, some of them with kilts and tam o' shanters. There's a Santa Claus on a Vespa scooter, a Santa Claus swinging from a parachute, and a Santa Claus arriving by hot air balloon.
And that brings us to the end of part 3. Welcome back to part 4. We'll start with the answers to the quiz and then continue with some general news and sport. Okay, let's see how you did with the pub quiz. Number 1, in which decade was the Thames Barrier officially opened by the Queen? And the answer was C, the 1980s. Number 2, in 1996, which jockey won all 7 races on a card at Ascot? And the answer was B, Frankie Dettori. Number 3, which US author wrote The Sun Also Rises? And the answer is B, Ernest Hemingway. Number 4, in which state is Camp David, the country retreat of the US president? And the answer is C, Maryland. Number 5, what does the word nefarious mean? And the answer is A, evil. Number 6, in ornithology, what is a dunnock another name for? And the answer is C, hedge sparrow. Number 7, Claude Poole managed which English football club between 2016 and 2017? The answer is C, Southampton. Number 8, in astronomy, how many stars make up the plough? And the answer is B, 7. In Ireland, what is a shillelagh? And the answer is B, a heavy club. And number 10, in which decade was environmental pressure group Greenpeace founded? The answer is C, 1970s. I hope you did well. And the word challenge? The word antipathy means aversion, and the word capriform means goat-like. I challenge you to use these in a sentence today. And now we continue with the general news. First item here says, have a say in compulsory purchase consultation, and is by Ross Thompson. A West Lothian MSP has urged constituents to get involved in the Scottish Government's compulsory purchase consultation. Linlithgow MSP Fiona Hislop spoke out after the Scottish Government opened a consultation on a comprehensive package of proposals to modernise compulsory purchase in Scotland. The Scottish Government state that it wants compulsory purchase to fulfil its potential as a tool for delivering projects in the public interest, one that encourages authorities to make positive and proactive use of their powers, including in partnership with third parties. The government states that they want to reform the system to make it simpler, more streamlined and fairer for all parties. The consultation will be open for views to be submitted until December the 19th. Ms Hislop said, gap sites have been an issue in towns in my constituency for years, and despite continually raising this matter with landowners and developers, many of the sites across the constituency remain. I'm pleased to see the Scottish Government consulting on a package of proposals to make compulsory purchase simpler, more streamlined and fairer for all involved. This legislation would not only apply to empty homes, but would also help bring vacant land back into use. The consultation will be open until December 19th, and I would encourage my constituents to submit their views to the consultation.
Whopping grant is awarded to charity, and this is by Ross Thompson. Dog Trust has received the largest grant ever donated to support the charity's work in Scotland from the John William Hay Charitable Trust. A total of $1.3 million has been pledged by the Scottish charity towards the rebuilding of Dogs Trust West Calder. The generous donation is not only the largest grant from a Dogs Trust has ever received in Scotland, but also John William Hay Charitable Trust's largest donation to any charity. The donation is in addition to previous pledges of over $78,000 donated since 2022 towards Dogs Trust work in Scotland, rehabilitating and rehoming dogs at the charity's rehoming centre in West Calder and at Dogs Trust Dundee. In August, staff, guests and celebrity supporters celebrated breaking the ground at Dogs Trust West Calder as work begins on a two-phase rebuild of the rehoming centre. The rebuild, which is expected to be completed by May 2027, will transform the 31-year-old facilities into a world-class rehoming centre, incorporating the latest advances in kennel design and dog welfare. 3 trustees from the John Wilson Hay Charitable Trust were warmly welcomed to the groundbreaking event to celebrate the charity's incredible donation. The Trust's transformation gift enabled Dog Trust to cover the funding gap needed to start work on the first phase of the vital rebuild. The John William Hay Charitable Trust was formed in the name of the late Carnoustie farmer John William Hay, who lived and worked on the 287-acre Carlungie farm in Carnoustie, Angus. The work of the Trust reflects John's keen interest in animal welfare, especially in the Dundee and Tayside area. John was a Dogs Trust supporter throughout his life, donating towards the charity's work and sponsoring a border collie named Mr. Darcy, who was cared for at Dogs Trust West Calder. Owen Sharp, Chief Executive of the Dogs Trust, said, "We are extremely grateful to the John William Hay Charitable Trust for their generous gift of $1.3 million towards Dogs Trust at West Calder. This grant will help us not only transform our West Calder rehoming centre, but also the lives of countless dogs and their families throughout Scotland." Last year in Scotland, over 3,000 people reached out to us to take in their dogs, an increase of 22% from the year before. By redeveloping our West Calder Centre and with the support of our Dundee Fostering Network, we will be able to be there for even more dogs and their owners whenever they need us. Nick Barclay, trustee of the John William Hay Charitable Trust, added, "As an avid dog lover, we believe the late John Hay would have been pleased to know his generosity would transform the lives of so many dogs in Scotland. This donation represents a long-term legacy in memory of our late founder."
This article by Stuart Somerville, Taxi Fares Will Rise Ahead of Christmas. West Lothian taxi fares are to rise before Christmas after the hike was confirmed and agreed by councillors. The largest proposed rise of 9.5% could see the cost of a tariff-free journey of 10 miles rise by more than £4 over the Christmas and New Year holidays. Other fees, including clean-up costs for soiled cabs, look set to be pegged at the existing £40 charge, despite calls by some taxi operators for a hefty increase. Jessica Chan, the council's acting managing solicitor, litigation, legal services, told a meeting of the council's executive on Tuesday that the council has to review local taxi fares every 18 months. The fare increases agreed will run until May 2027. Taxi operators were invited to a meeting at Livingston Civic Centre to discuss the proposed increases in July. There are 2 trade associations in West Lothian. The TOA proposal received 12 votes, while the Fellowship's proposed tariffs received none. If there is no appeal against the proposed increases, they will come into force at the end of November. A recent meeting of the Council's executive agreed to the proposals without comment. The Council published notice of any proposed changes to its fare table and to consider any representations made in writing regarding the proposed changes before agreeing a new fare table. The new fare table attracted no comment when advertised in the West Lothian Courier. The new fare table will see a tariff 1 mile journey rising from £4.80 to £5.20, an 8.3% increase. A 5 mile tariff 1 journey will rise from £12.80 to £14, and a 10 mile tariff 1 journey from £22.80 to £25. The West Lothian Taxi Owners Association, TOA, proposed that the tariffs be increased from £3 to £3.20 in Tariff 1, from £3.40 to £3.60 in Tariff 2, and from £5.10 to £5.40 in Tariff 3. It is also requested that the yardage be reduced from 176 yards to 160 yards across all tariffs. The West Lothian Association of Taxi Owners, WLAOTO Fellowship, had proposed that the tariffs be increased from £3.40 to £3.60 in Tariff 2 and from £5.10 to £5.40 in Tariff 3, with the yardage reduced from 176 yards to 168 yards across all tariffs. The Fellowship had also requested that the additional charge for every piece of luggage carried be increased from 20p to 40p, subjected to a maximum charge increased from 40p to £1 per hire, and that the soiling charge be increased from £40 to £60.
And now for some sports news. And this first item is Livingston Football Club. It's headed, Brenny Can Be Livy Hero, and is by Andy McGilvery. David Martindale says it's not often that Livingston sign a star like Joshua Brenny and hopes fans will be delighted with the Dutch defender. Former PSV and Hoffenheim star Brenny played twice for the Netherlands before switching to Curaçao in June 2024 and has now landed at Ammanvale ahead of Livingston's trip to Hibs on Saturday. Martindale said, Joshua's registration came through on Tuesday. He was on the bench against Trinidad and Tobago and got 90 minutes against Jamaica on Saturday. I chased him in the summer and I would have been a lot happier had I got him 6 weeks ago and managed to get a pre-season into him. It's getting players adapted to the intensity and physicality of the Scottish Premiership, and I think we're going to have to be careful that we don't throw him into games and expect too much too soon. But there's an element from the level that Joshua has come from that he would be expected to do that. Everyone's looking at him being a right back, but his last game for Curaçao he played left back. He can play right wing back and right wing. There's a lot to like about his game. He brings a lot of experience, and historically, we don't sign boys who've played 170 games in the Dutch top flight, won the Dutch League and Cup, and got capped for Holland, and he's a Curaçao internationalist. There's definitely a lot to like. Livingston have an opportunity to go above Hibs in the table with a win at Easter Road, but Martindale knows they won't just turn up and take 3 points. He said, I don't really spend too much time looking at the league table. I look at how we take something from one game and use it in the next. Beating Hibs isn't going to be as easy as it sounds. We've been a wee bit unlucky with some results, but what we've proven to everyone in the league is we're very competitive. I'm a wee bit frustrated in terms of our points return, but I'm fairly happy with our performances. We were very competitive in the last game. Hibs won 2-0 and deservedly so, but we've got better since that game and they've been learning game by game about how unforgiving it is in the Premiership. We can definitely take something from the game and we're under no illusions about how hard it's going to be.
Celtic hero's kid can be a hit at Ibrox. Gallagher Lennon may have a famous dad in Celtic legend Neil, but Broxburn Athletic boss John Miller reckons the defender will be a star in his own right. Defender Lennon, 19, has signed for the Lowland League title chasers after being released by St Mirren B. Having worked with Lennon before at Linlithgow Rose, Miller reckons he knows the Northern Ireland under-19 internationalists more than most. Miller said, "Gallagher wasn't short of offers, but he was keen to work with myself and I was keen to work with him, so hopefully it's a good situation for all parties. He has all the attributes. He's a really good talker. For someone so young, he's a really good leader. Gal has a beautiful left foot, reads the game well and has a really good turn of pace, so he could be a really good addition moving forward for us. He just needs to get back playing regularly and loving the game again."
Douglas is Brock's hero in Cup tie. Broxburn boss John Miller praised hat-trick hero Errol Douglas after the big striker sent his side into the East of Scotland qualifying cup fourth round. Douglas opened the scoring a minute into the second half, and that was cancelled out by Jamie Devlin in 63. But the striker was on the mark again in 73 and 80 to earn his side safe passage. Miller said, "We're creating a lot of chances collectively as a team, but also for Errol. There's a lot of good play coming from midfield and wide areas, so Errol's getting lots of good service just now, and you can see that in the returns he's getting. The big man's playing really well. It's the fittest I've ever seen him, so he's in really good spirits, playing well, scoring lots of goals. The second half was a good performance. We were a lot more clinical and probably should have won the game more comfortably in the end. Broxburn beat Gala Ferrydean Rovers 1-0 on Tuesday night and travelled to Civil Service Strollers on Saturday." Miller said, "Against Arniston, we made 5 changes to the side that beat Gretna the week before, just trying to use the squad with a busy week coming up. We've got 3 games in 7 days, so we were looking to use the squad to make sure everyone got game time and was fresh and ready to go for the league games. It's a good chance for points. We've actually won 3 in a row in the league, so it's a chance to go 5 on Saturday. It's a chance to solidify third place and potentially catch the 2 teams above us in Clydebank and Linlithgow."
And that brings us to the end of this week's recording. We hope you've enjoyed it. So it's goodbye from the members of Team 5, and until next time, stay safe and stay well.